everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Friday afternoon, 2 o'clock. For Wulf, Zach Berman, and you'll see in the middle, if you're watching, the professor is here. Deniz Selman, back from gallivanting across the world. We want to hear a little bit about that. But, as Zach prepares to take a vacation very much against his will, it's nice to have all three of us together while you're both back for now. Zach, good to see you.
Great to see you. Excited for the show. Want to make the most of this hour.
There you go. Deniz, how you doing? Where were you?
I'm doing great. I mean, as you guys know, I've talked about this before. I'm not as big a fan of work as Zach is, and I try to model my life on being able to take as much vacation as possible. So, our trip to Belize was incredible. We got to stay on essentially a private island. I mean, like there's this
Must be
beautiful
nice.
family. Shout out to Dustin and Kim and their daughter Amma. They bought an island 21 years ago, and they have a one cabin Airbnb on there. And so you stay with
the life of a billionaire.
It's
Eat the
ridiculous,
rich.
and it is not that expensive. I mean, like it was an incredible experience, and for a very reasonable price. And they cook for you. They like cook seafood the whole time that they're catching. This is like 45 minutes boat ride off the mainland of Belize, so you are in the middle of nothing. And they have a restaurant and bar on the island. And this part is a little interesting. Like, it's all people who live like the sailing life coming to the restaurant. They have like a mooring fee, and you can dock your sailboat and have dinner with them, and that means you meet people from all over the world. We had like a dinner with a Norwegian couple and talked to them about Norway and stuff like that. So it was really cool. So you're not like, you don't get cabin fever hanging out with this family. And their daughter is 12 years old, and she was born on the island. Like, she's only lived on this tiny island. You can swim around it in like 10 minutes. So it's a very interesting life for her.
You think homeschool kids are weird?
It was very interesting. She is unbelievably normal, social. She gets to meet all these people who are coming off the sailboats, I guess, and they do spend 1 month a year on the mainland. So, it was very interesting. Emily asked her, "Does this ever become like walking down the street for you, like the snorkeling and everything?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" And Emily was like, does it get boring for you? And she's like, "Oh yeah, it gets boring, but walking down the street is really exciting for me." So,
it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah, it was super cool. So, and the rest of Belize was awesome too. We did some like cave stuff and Mayan ruins and things like that. So
I apologize for my ignorance here. I don't know my Central America geography very well. That's near Guatemala. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, we saw Guatemala. We saw Guatemala from the top of a Mayan pyramid. It's right on the border, and that border is actually disputed because Belize used to be a British colony, and the Brits promised half of Belize to Guatemala at some certain point in time. I don't remember the year. And now Belize is independent, and Belize is like, screw that. Like, that was you guys talking to England. Like, you don't get like half of Belize. Belize is already very small. And so it's a disputed border with Guatemala, which adds to the fun. We were like, are they going to attack?
Good thing you had an island. You might have had to worry about.
Yes, we were safe. We were safe on the island. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Zach, before we get into it, there is a bit of Eagles news to get to. Why don't you fill us in?
Yeah, I saw this. Avonte Maddox departing for his hometown Detroit Lions.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for Avonte Maddox. And I would say, to someone who I think had a better career with the Eagles than maybe – I think Eagles fans appreciate it. But, look, the last year wasn't very good. And it is like pretty clear, the defense got better once Avonte Maddox lost his starting job. I don't know if there's a cause and effect there. But a tough player, good player whenever he was healthy. Injuries were more of the issue than anything else. And I'll say this, the final play that he made was a big play, a memorable play. And personally, someone who I always enjoyed talking to, someone who kept it real. So congratulations to Avonte Maddox on a good career with the Eagles. And now he gets to go, of all places, to go to your hometown team. I can get behind that.
It's funny. Avonte going to the Lions makes me think of Brandon Graham. not just because the two of them are from Detroit, but you think about Avonte Maddox's Eagles career, 7 years, like a full career arc, right?
Yeah.
Like super impressive as a rookie, surprisingly as a fourth rounder, like wins a job on the defense. First 4 years of his contract, he's one of the best nickels in the league, earns himself a second contract with the team, remains a very good player, and then starts to decline a little bit. 2 years ago was not great. This year obviously was a bit of a disappointment, and that's fine. And you think, okay, Avonte Maddox, you hope that maybe he sticks around for another year, maybe, but this is basically the end of his career. Brandon Graham, after 7 years, like his career was just beginning. Then played another 8 years. It's crazy.
It's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think a lot of careers will seem like they ended badly if Brandon Graham's the comparison point for sure.
But it is yeah. Go ahead, Dennis.
No, I was just gonna say, as a fan, like I always appreciated Avonte Maddox. He was one of my favorites. I always thought he was like a fun player to watch. Every interview or whatever I saw with him, he seemed like a very likable player, and it kind of sneaks up on you, like how long he's been here, right? Like it's like, oh man, he was one of the longest tenured Eagles by the end, and I'm so happy he got to stay the extra year. I know he was essentially off the team last year, and then he came back, and how cool that he got to be on the team that won it and make that play that's on every like highlight reel of the Super Bowl. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Now I know you're still in the film gooning process, Deniz. I don't know if you've gotten to that play yet. But what?
No, I haven't. I've watched the film is all like gone before my eyes, but I haven't charted that. Okay. I haven't charted the defense yet. Yeah.
Because it was weird. Like, why was he even on the field?
Cooper DeJean got injured. It was a very like short injury to Cooper DeJean. He like nicked something, and so he was off the field for that reason. When I was watching it live, I thought like maybe it was dime, but then I like quickly saw that it wasn't dime, and I was like, oh, there must have been an injury, and I think they said on the radio broadcast or something that like Cooper DeJean was hurt. So yeah, it's great. Very random. Yeah, Cooper DeJean already made enough of an impact on the game that I think it's okay that he wasn't on the field on that play. So
now, Zach, will Dallas Goedert be moving to Detroit with Avonte?
I don't think that the Lions will add Dallas Goedert. I mean, I think they are well stocked at tight end with Sam Laporta. But those two are linked, and it's amazing to think that Jordan Mailata might be the last one left from that draft class. Now, it's not that amazing. It's been long enough, but it's amazing in the sense that the Eagles gave extensions to those guys. It was like a narrative-based thing. 4 guys got contract extensions: Dallas Goedert, Jordan Mailata, Josh Sweat, Avonte Maddox. A real good draft. Matt Pryor was the other pick. He's still playing and humming along, but now Jordan Mailata can do the Fresh Prince meme that Lane Johnson did with that draft class, because he's the only one standing from that draft class.
Well, Goddard is still here for now.
Oh, true. That's true. Which, as I saw in Professor Selman's Blue World Order rankings, you have a lot hinging on Dallas Goedert returning, Bob.
Yeah,
I do, but I have more hinging on Bryce Huff.
Okay. All right. I didn't look at the delta for that. Yeah.
That's the big one.
And based on what you're telling us, Bryce Huff is more likely, right? I mean, Bryce Huff is far more
I think
likely.
Bryce Huff's more likely to come back than Dallas Goedert is, just because I do think there's interested teams in Dallas Goedert. It's a matter of like what kind of compensation the Eagles can get for him, what kind of contract Dallas Goedert can get. I think Bryce Huff feels like he's very fairly compensated. I just think it's a matter of like, I don't know who wants to take on Bryce Huff's contract right now.
To that point, very quickly, Deniz, before the show, just tweeted out the Flu World Order standings, which, if you are new, was the rankings of me, Zach, and Fran in terms of how likely we thought the pending free agents and trade targets were to come back. Zach had an early lead, very early.
Very early.
Tanner McKee, you and I had 1, and Fran had a 3. Zach Bond, you had a 3. That was a good call. I had a 6. Fran had a 7. And that's the only guys who have come back so far. There have been plenty of guys who have left. But some of those guys could also come back and re-enter the fold. But of the players who are still out there, Goddard, I have a 3, you have an 8, and Fran has a 5. But then Bryce Huff, I have a 5, you have a 14, and Fran has a 22.
Who is the most likely, Bo, to be this year's Nicholas Morrow, the guy who comes back completely randomly, so late in the season that you forgot that he made an impact on Flu World Order and maybe changes the outcome?
Paris Campbell.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Okay. Yeah, that could be good, and that would help Fran.
And I actually saw Paris Campbell quote our friend Josh Tolentino, who now he does a good job covering the Cowboys. Used to work in Philly. Paris Campbell signed with Dallas, and he said actually, Paris Campbell told Josh or told the reporters, whoever he spoke with there, said that he had interest in, the Eagles were interested in bringing him back, but that the Cowboys he thought presented more playing time opportunity for him, and that's why he went to Dallas. But he said the Eagles were interested in bringing him back. So to that point, I actually think Paris Campbell is probably more comparable to like a Jack Driscoll type move than a Nicholas Morrow type move, but we're really splitting hairs.
Yeah, get into that. Explain why. Let's really get into the weeds on that.
Because I think like Jack Driscoll, Jack Driscoll was signed in free agency relatively early. I mean, and then he got cut in camp and then returned. Like Jack Driscoll, Jack Stoll, they returned early in the season. Nicholas Morrow,
you should have combined the two of them into Jack Driscoll, and then you'd have the best blocking tight end in football.
You could have done that. I think probably the Nicholas Morrow one would be James Bradbury, who's just like
I would say CJ Uzomah.
Or CJ Uzomah, yeah. That's
although Morrow's good because he was such a lightning rod, like the reason the defense was bad guy, and so Bradbury would make a little bit of sense. That would be funny.
I am curious for what you guys think of the players who are still free agents, and there aren't many of them. Who do you think's most likely to resign?
So it's Jack Driscoll, the Raven, Uzomah, Covey, and Lovato, right? That's it, I think.
Yes.
The most likely to come back to the Eagles?
Yes.
It must be Covey, but I think I would not be shocked if Jack. I think would not be shocked if Jack Driscoll comes back either.
Yeah, I was going to say Driscoll, which is interesting. When I saw, I love Professor Selman's bookkeeping. I appreciate that. I was surprised how high Fran had Covey. He had Covey 2 on that list, and
you had him 5. You had him pretty high.
True, that's true too. Yeah, but we'll see on Covey. When I was exchanging some notes with Bo before the show, I am curious to see what the Eagles do at returner if they seek external upgrades, which they already did by adding Avery Williams, a returner. If they give Cooper DeJean an opportunity, if they really want to try to have Aniyah Smith as the returner for this team, or if in the draft, Bo was talking how they could add offensive players in the draft. If they're looking at a running back or a receiver who can contribute in the return game as well.
Zach, did you ever find out more than maybe what we know about what was going on with Covey at the end of the season? Because they had him full practice and then he was out, even though he was full practice, and then it seemed like he was going to come back and he just never did. What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the neck injury was something that they were careful with, but then I also think they didn't need that roster spot at that time. Like they didn't put him back on the 53, right? And so I think I think they were preserving roster spots is my guess, but I didn't look much further into it other than I do know during the playoffs they were especially cautious with the neck, and understandably so. Neck injuries are nothing to
turn your head at.
There you go. Well done. Better turn of phrase than I could think of.
I'm not sure if I buy the roster spot. I mean, they brought Paris Campbell onto the 53 when they could have just kept on elevating him or whatever. I don't know, but
But they did need.
I was just wondering if that would speak to if it's something that affects the future, like whether that would mean that he's not coming back for that reason. I just didn't know.
No, but they gave Nick Gates a phantom injury because they needed a roster spot for Brandon Graham, right? So going into Super Bowl week, they didn't have a surplus of roster spots.
Some good comments in the chat. CDP saying that maybe it's because Covey was mad that that Inner Excellence became the self-help book for the Eagles. He was worried that it was going to tarnish his grandfather's legacy. I also see Flu World Order. More like smash that like button. Zach, did we get enough comments yesterday to satisfy your comment thirst?
Well, you're never satisfied, Bo. But I did appreciate there was greater volume of comments. I look, and there were a few comments there commenting to satisfy Zach, and I appreciate the sentiment. But I would love feedback on the show, right? That would be that'd be nice. There was a real nice comment. There's a really nice comment about you, Bo, or at least that I interpret it as a nice comment about you, which says that you've you've really been nicer to me recently on the show. That was a comment someone put, and I appreciate.
No, I didn't
that.
notice that.
Yeah, someone that came up about a few hours ago.
Well, as you said yesterday, Zach, we can all get better.
We all can get better. Myself, paramount with that, or chief among that.
I agree with that. By the way, Bo, I was wondering if it's like the baby coming or what it is, but I've seen a little bit of your softer side the last few weeks.
Good. I'm gonna get on you now.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
We have a super chat.
It's only once in a while for me. So,
who has a bit of a game theory question? Deniz. Now, keep in mind, Deniz did not design these games, but the question is, why are no points scored for correctly predicting players leaving? Asks.
Well, in this case, it would be equivalent, right, to scoring for the ones leaving for staying, since they either stay or leave, right? And so, because the total number of points is the same across all of the players for all of the contestants of the game, whether we gave the points to the ones who left or the ones who stayed, it would be the same outcome. So even though
it would look different.
It would look different
midstream, but at the end, it would all look the same.
And in the past, I've charted both like midstream just to make it whatever. But now I just put the pending for the others. But yeah, at the end
you're
of
getting lazy.
Two
season, Super Bowls, two Super Bowls in, you're lazy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I actually thought it just cluttered the thing too much and made it confusing. So I thought it would be better.
The other super chat we have, Deniz, is from Vince, who says he loved your NBA tweet on March 16th. Speaks so much truth. I have no idea what this tweet was.
Shout out, Vince. I think the real ones know that my opinions on the NBA are not surpassed by very many. Yeah, it was a thing. We're going to talk about rule changes in the NFL today, and they're all kind of like marginal changes. The NBA, I don't know if there's a single rule that should stay in the rule book. I mean, the entire structure of the season, the structure of the game, every single thing about.
I think you should not be allowed to punch a player in the face. I think that should still be a rule.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there might be a few like that, but for the most part, the general structure of basketball is completely broken. And I had a tweet about that, so that's what Vince is referring to. It was in the context of the Sixers tanking, and how annoying the tanking is, from a fan perspective. But in general, I was like, yeah, I mean, the NBA incentivizes it, and then they pretend to get mad about it, and the whole thing is just kind of a farce. So.
I did have on the topic of NBA tanking and the spirit of today's show. Before we get into proposed rule changes,
we don't even know what the spirit of today's show is. Sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
Professor Selman has.
That's a comment on us, not on you, on all of us. We've just been rambling for 20 minutes.
No, but we're going to be talking about rule changes. I did want to ask you guys, and it's something we can talk about after the ad break too. When I'm looking at all the draft stuff. And I'm watching the NBA. I'm curious, do you think the NFL should institute a lottery? Do you think that, and what would be the best version of a lottery? And if I can just editorialize here or give my take, I want a lottery that is a completely flat lottery that doesn't incentivize losing. So now the problem is this. Would it incentivize a team not making the playoff? Like if you're a fringe team, would you be less interested in would you try not to make the postseason? Because would you rather, instead of being the 7th seed in the NFL, have just as good a chance to make or to get the number 1 pick than a team that went, 2-15? But I would like to see a lottery system in the NFL because I think that
the way the NBA used to do a flat lottery before, just all the teams. Yeah, I think that when you compare the NFL and the NBA, there are 2 really important differences when we talk about the optimal structure. One is in the NBA, it's pretty clear who the best players are in the draft, and those players make such a big impact. It's usually kind of consensus, right? That there are 3 or 4 players that are going to be the best. And it doesn't always end up that way, but at least at the time of the draft, it's very the expected impact of the top 5 players is so much higher than the 15th player, right? Whereas in the NFL, I don't think it's quite as big a difference. And the other difference in the NBA is there's so many regular season games that the tanking affects so much of the season. Like, it's like, you know, like in the NFL, tanking isn't really that big an observed problem, right? Like even in the last week, sometimes the team that would have won the number one pick like wins and like messes up the number one pick, right? We've seen that happen multiple times the last few years. So it's not as big an issue in the NFL. I do still have ideas for how to fix it in the NFL a little bit, but I wouldn't compare the two leagues. You know what I mean? Like in the NBA, like the NBA season is essentially like the main two ingredients are like load management and tanking. Like it's like the worst product ever. You have all these like incredibly talented players playing this sport that when it's played is actually very entertaining. And it's so rarely played, like between two teams actually trying to win a game, and that doesn't turn into like a free throw contest at the end or whatever. Like actual basketball is like a rarity in the NBA. Like the NFL doesn't have that.
I was in a fantasy league one time where the number one, but this was pre-auction before the league went to an auction, where the number one pick was the best team that didn't make the playoffs. So actually the
incentive structure is
So I've always wondered like what if the teams are, you know, trying so hard to win at the end of the season to get a number one pick as opposed to trying to lose to get.
I've posted all kinds of things about this in the past. Like we can like dig up my old tweets on this. Like one thing that I think should definitely
you can't. That search functionality is broken.
Well, yeah, I probably can't anymore, but I probably have my own like spreadsheet somewhere still. I proposed the system where no game after you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs should help you get a better pick. So if you're eliminated like after week 11, like you're 0-11 or whatever, you shouldn't continue to have incentive to lose after that, because so many games near the end of the year like get affected by that. So you could make it based on your record at the time you got eliminated, for example, and then you could still tank, but it would involve like tanking right from the beginning of the year, you know, which we wouldn't expect an NFL team to do. And then you could even spin that around a little bit and make it so that once you did get eliminated, you actually maybe get rewarded for winning games at the end or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like it's not like the players or the coaches necessarily share the incentives of the organization at that point in the season anyway. So I'm not sure how much.
What if that was the order? The order was based on how many games you win after being mathematically eliminated. So you could,
so you want to be mathematically eliminated early, and then
you could if you want to. But then if you're that bad, are you really going to win games? And so that could fix
and also,
the incentives.
I mean, do the players like want the team to have a good pick? Is like the other thing. Like it's like, you know, it depends, I guess, on what position.
I think in reality, it is a better thing than not for the NFL that it is structured that way to bring everybody to the middle in you know, the most popular league. Like in the NBA, you have teams that are just floundering forever.
I think if we saw like clear tanking in the NFL, I would feel differently. Like I think if you just read me the rules, I would say, "Ooh, that's not good." Like teams are going to tank. But then you see the team that literally has the first pick in their hands, like win on week 18 and lose that pick. So the fact that that's happening makes me think like, at least for now, empirically, like it's not that big a problem. So.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk some more game theory about the rules of the NFL. I'm going to tell you about our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. I am an Ace Hardware Home Services devout follower. They've helped me out with many different things, including our hot water heater over the past few months. And I can recommend Ace Hardware Home Services because they are bringing helpful home to you. At Ace Hardware Home Services, whenever they get ready for the next job, they remember what to bring. They bring experience. They're local plumbers and techs who handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals, and the job isn't completed until you're satisfied. And they bring helpful to your home, so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. Free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and budget. We're talking service you can trust and the satisfaction. Oh, it's guaranteed. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
It is spring, That's a wonderful time of year. And it also means that it's time to spring into savings. If you have financial goals, whether it's buying a house, taking that dream vacation to a private island in Belize, building your emergency fund, or trying to hit on a 15-2 game, that 65-64 right now, Robert Morris, Alabama. TrueMark Financial Credit Union has the perfect savings account for you. TrueMark Financial offers high rate certificates and money market accounts to help your money grow faster and work harder for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates to learn more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA. They're an equal opportunity lender. Rates are subject to change.
Score here. What's going on? Bobby Morris going to take down Alabama?
And then I don't have multi-screen up here. Baylor and Mississippi State 73-70. I see at the top of the screen. So yeah, good day for NCAA tournament stuff. And then Colorado State, where I teach, it's 2019 right now.
Yeah, I was wondering why you haven't been banging the drum more for your Rams in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to teach there. I'll be going out there next month. Shield's teaching there this semester as well. Be going out there with Shield. Nico Medved's doing a good job for the Rams. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard to make a bigger upgrade in any facet of life than Steve Adazio out, Zach Berman and Shield Kapadia in.
Well, shout out to Dr.
Then again, Steve Adazio out, you could bring in I'm
very curious what name you're going to come up with.
Ted Kaczynski, and it would still be an upgrade.
Bo, there were a few comments in the chat earlier. I don't want you to. I don't want to have to reveal something you're uncomfortable with, but people do like the background today. They notice that it's different. This is a visual medium. Are there any details you could offer as to where you might be right now doing the show?
It is different. That is correct.
Okay.
No, I told you I have my rotisserie baseball draft tonight. I'm in New York.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
At my dad's apartment.
If I can give a quick bit of commentary, ask your father where he gets his Wi-Fi, because it's going well. No, it's good. You're like you're looking more crisp than at home.
I mean, do you want me to be keeping?
No, that's a compliment.
Nice or not?
No. That is a compliment. That is a compliment.
Not really.
Okay,
it's a compliment to him. You are talking down on me.
It's okay. The heads missed the diagonal door anyway. So
yeah. All right, let's get into your thoughts on the rule changes, Deniz. This is, Zach sent out the bat signal that summoned you a couple weeks ago about your hatred of Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert being overrated. We sent it out a couple days ago when there are new rule proposals. Give us your thoughts. Let's start with, of course, your enthusiasm for protecting the Tush Push.
Oh yeah. I mean, the language that the Packers proposed being so specific to exactly what the Eagles do on that play makes it so bizarrely targeted at one specific thing.
It's such loser energy.
It's such loser, and also it makes it less likely to pass too. Because it's so transparently about this one team's play. It's that team that killed everyone and won the Super Bowl, let's start banning things that they're good at. It's just ridiculous. Ironically, the largest game that I've ever seen on that play was by the Packers against the Eagles in this year's wild card playoff. I don't know if you guys remember, they ran it twice to Tucker Kraft, the tight end. And the first time they got first downs on both of them. And the first time they got 8 yards on the play. They just didn't blow the whistle and the pile just kept on moving. So it's kind of funny that they actually ran it themselves and they want to ban it. They cited player safety. There were 0 reported injuries according to the NFL on that play this season, and then they cited pace of play as the other thing that it would fix to ban the play. I mean, if they're referencing things
that's the reference,
diving over the pile like a moron 8 times, how about banning that? How about making it so that that's a personal foul instead of just offside? right? Making it so that that's like has a stronger penalty. Actually enforcing the defense not lining up in the neutral zone every single time would also help the pace of play, because right now they call that so sporadically that every team tries to do it. And I think it actually leads to more flags on the play, because like it's not clear how they're going to call it. And so teams are like trying to get away with everything they can. And then when they do call it, it like creates a pace of play issue, I guess, because it's more flags. But I think if they were consistent on the way they actually called what the defense is doing, that would fix the problem of pace of play. Not that I think pace of play is a big issue anyway. That obviously isn't why they proposed it. But anyway, yes, I fully agree with you, Bo, that it is very much a loser proposal. And I'm very surprised.
Like, it's a very literal, like, please don't put it in the newspaper that I'm mad. Like, what are we doing?
And but don't you also think it's surprising that they actually proposed it? Like, because it doesn't seem to have the legs. So like all they're doing is exposing themselves as losers. Like, it's like, did they really?
I totally agree.
They need 24 votes, right? Like I think like 5 or 6 teams have already said that they're fine with it. So I don't think there's any way they're not going to get 9 votes to keep it, right? I mean,
so where I think the nuance in this, and Bo can speak on this more than I can, or I don't know if he can or not, but the all these rules that, like, these aren't voted by the competition committee, these are voted by the owners, right? So if a coach were to say that I'm fine with it, that doesn't necessarily mean that the owner will override it. I said Bo might know more on this than I have, because I know Bo's done work on the past reporting on like some of what goes on in the room. And I think sometimes like the front office needs to convince the owner of what to do, like you need to go in this direction, you need to go in that direction. And owners can be impressionable. Like owners might not be looking at all the data for this. They're just like, oh yeah, let's get rid of the, they hear a presentation from Green Bay. They're like, player safety, let's get rid of the tush push. Right. And so I know it's not as haphazard as that, but it's not the coaches voting for it. It's not the GMs voting for it. It's the owners voting for it. And of course the owners get input in terms of what to vote for, but I don't know the due diligence that every owner does when they vote.
Well, I mean, if you want to get into like the owner politics as well, like Mark Murphy is not someone who's going to be rallying a bunch of owners to his cause. You know what I mean? Like he is not like in the room of the 32 billionaires. People are not like, oh, wait a second, Mark Murphy is talking. Meanwhile, he's like, drinking his sippy cup in the corner.
He doesn't have like as much to offer the owners in other areas, right? Like a Jerry Jones or something.
Although here's an interesting twist. This is Mark Murphy's last time doing this. Okay. This is his.
This is his final stand. This is his fit. This is his baby boy.
This is the Green Bay
wetting his diaper, stomping out the room. This is not my football.
The Green Bay Packers have a mandatory retirement age, as we covered. Mark Murphy is going to be replaced after this year. This is Mark Murphy's final time in that room representing them, and this is the cause.
I want to go out.
Yes. What do I want my legacy to be?
That is so ridiculous.
What a stupid thing.
What's the age, by the way? Is it like 67 or something? Do you know?
I do not know. I can do a quick Google search and look it up. I think it might be.
Okay. No,
Mark Murphy legacy game. In the comments is very good.
Yeah,
that is very.
It's actually, I kind of appreciate that the Packers have that policy, right? Because sometimes.
Really.
Yeah,
I would have thought you would be very anti-retirement age.
You're the one who wants to work till you the day before you die. Yeah.
I want to.
What would you do if they forced you to retire?
I want to, but that's a like a publicly traded company there, and you have an obligation to your shareholders, and so the spirit of the rule, I don't like I don't think any job should be like the Supreme Court where you're just sitting there and
this is close to a political opinion.
No,
please go on.
I tend to think that the older you get, the less a fleet of mind you are.
Starting at what age?
Well, I don't know that. That's the challenge.
Wow. Noted ageist Zach Berman Canceled again.
On the record as supporting forced retirement now. I mean, this is going to be very.
I'm not saying I'm not saying you have to stop working. But maybe
back.
maybe stop doing that job. Right? Like so that there are jobs like there are some jobs you can do until the day until you're 90, but maybe not being the president of a professional sports organization is one of them. Or the president of other things too, I would say also. Yeah. I do feel that. Yeah, I think you get to a certain age. There are jobs you don't necessarily have to do.
Man, the guy is going on vacation. He's going out like Mark Murphy. He's going out with a bang.
Sorry.
This is fantastic.
This is great. I don't even want to interrupt this. This is like the most political Zach has ever been on.
Yes.
Yeah. That could be applied to politics, but that's uniform across the board. Yes. Although that said, Warren Buffett, he's still sharp at his age, so he's rolling along.
Okay. So who should have known it was going to come back to Buffett? All right. Deniz, I thought the most interesting proposal in terms of something that I could be convinced should actually be enforced was the Lions proposal. No automatic first downs on defensive holding or illegal contact. Any unintended consequences we're not seeing? What did you think of that one?
Yeah, before we get into whether it's a good idea, my mind immediately went to, can we play the end of Super Bowl 57 again with this rule? The James Bradbury holding call on 3rd and 8, right? So that would make it 35-35, Chiefs ball, 3rd and 3 at the Eagles 10 with 1:48 left. What happens if that game starts right there? And then I was just like, who am I kidding? Like, Gannon's going to stop a 3-yard gain on the next play. Like, they would have gotten the first down anyway. But that's a good example of where that rule would have been good in a situation where the call was controversial, right? Like, you're giving the referee way too much power there. Like, that basically ended the game. Whereas if it wasn't an automatic first down, it wouldn't have ended the game. It's just one situation. I think I like the idea. I like the idea in principle, right? I strongly dislike when a team gets a cheap first down on like a illegal contact that's often like away from the ball, like on like a 3rd and 17, right? Like that's always kind of annoying. But I also don't want, Zach made the point that the Lions were flagged a lot for pass interference and holding last year. I don't want defensive backs to start being coached to hold guys on purpose, right? When it's 3rd and long, like every time they think they're about to get beat, like you wouldn't want that either. So it's a tricky trade-off. I think maybe it would be a good compromise to at least make it a 10-yard penalty if you're going to not make it a first down, because then it would only matter that it's not a first down if it's longer than 10 yards to go. Anytime it's like less than 10 yards to go, it would still be a first down. So you'd be less likely to have scenarios where teams were like intentionally holding or whatever. So I'm not sure. I don't really know where I stand on it. I do think in general, if the rule's not optimal right now, I think I would change it. But maybe if you just kept it at 5 yards and no first down, then like every 3rd and 12, you're going to get like intentional, intentional holding and stuff. I'm not exactly.
I wonder if there's.
I think I like it more than I don't like it. But
I wonder if for those purposes, if there should be a distinction between the two, where defensive holding feels more
between
purposeful,
illegal contact and
whereas illegal contact seems a little bit more unintentional.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, this is anecdotal, but when I watch a game, I get most annoyed when it's away from the ball. Like when it's not even like to the side of the field where the quarterback was looking and they call illegal contact. I think that should be like a different penalty than when it's like illegal contact against the guy who like actually got targeted. And it's not pass interference on like essentially a technicality that like the ball hadn't been thrown yet, but clearly that's where the ball was going. I know that's hard to litigate live, right? But I do think this is to your point, that maybe the two penalties should be different, and also maybe there should be a difference on like whether it's the targeted player or not. If you could somehow manage to,
I think I'm in on 10 yards, no automatic first down. I like that.
So how about this wrinkle to it? And correct me if I'm wrong, but most defensive holdings happen early in the route, correct? Is that fair to say, as opposed to the top of the route?
Well, yeah, because then it becomes
if the ball is thrown already, it's pass interference.
So
Yeah.
what if it's a spot foul? And the spot foul, if the spot produces a first down, so be it. The spot doesn't. So you get the ball where the holding occurred. So if the holding was 3 yards into the play, you get to do the down over again 3 yards into the play.
Then I feel like you get into, okay, it's
Then you
third and
definitely do it
15.
on
Let's
purpose.
just just press, and if he gets behind me, I'm just going to hold.
Valid point. Okay.
Right.
That's true.
If it's like 3rd and 13, like if
Yeah.
you grab the guy after 2 yards, it's just going to be 3rd and 11. You know what I mean? Like that's not enough of a penalty for that.
That's a good point. Okay.
Are there any defensive penalties that are 10 yards? It feels like it's all 5 or 15 or spot.
Like they're all 5. There must be something that's 10 yards, right? I can't think of.
I was thinking about the question you asked the other day, Zach, when I said I think that defensive players should get credit for sacks on intentional grounding, but not wide receivers on pass interference. And I think the distinction is the intentionality. Like intentional grounding is by definition intentional. It should be a sack, whereas pass interference it could be accidental. It's usually not on purpose.
That's fair.
And sometimes it's like not a ball the guy would have actually caught, right? Like so you'd be getting a lot of cheap yards on some of those.
So your 10-yard penalty on defense, this applies to defense or offense, but defensive member could get it, is tripping.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. That's like
bring tripping back. We don't see enough tripping.
Yeah, not enough tripping calls. Definitely.
Super chat from Danilo, who says, do you guys think that someday they will make illegal contact defensive holding penalty reviewable? God, I hope not.
Yeah.
No, we already went through that whole thing with the Sean Payton thing. I'm all for the sky judge doing more things. Like when it's just like blatantly wrong, I think the sky judge should be able to like immediately tell the referee, no, that was wrong. Pick it up right now. Like for anything. But reviewable, it makes it sound like you're going through a process that's going to take time, right? Like I think as long as it's not taking time, if the sky judge sees the replay and says like, wait, no, you actually didn't touch the guy at all, like pick that flag up, that should be fine. I also don't think we need to really know about it, like why he picked it up. You know what I mean? Like it's just like they picked it up, probably because the sky judge like fixed it, and then move on. I am all for that, but I don't think that the review process where the referee walks over and looks at a screen and stuff, like honestly, I don't think that should ever happen. Like, why does the ref have to be the one who watches the screen? Like, all that is like a way to make the ref like not as embarrassed at being corrected by somebody else. But like, it takes so much time that I think that the sky judge should just be given more power in general.
We also have another super chat from Claire, if I can find it, who says, Pecknest migrate, a Bo soliloquy, a Deniz rant, and ZB scolding the Giants. Feels like this is one for the sickos to answer, not for us to answer. We're all biased.
I will migrate ZB holding the Giants. There were scolding the Giants. I don't want that to be a thing that I do.
Why? They deserve it.
Well, in cases, yeah, but I don't want to be known as scolding the Giants. But I think that the moves that they've made this year earned scolding. I saw Jordan Renan, my friend Jordan Renan from ESPN, who covers the Giants, say that the Giants were offered a 5th-round pick for Azeez Ojulari at the deadline. Yeah. And they turned it down because Kayvon Thibodeau was dealing with the injury. And then Azeez Ojulari went on. And they were what? They had 2 wins at the time, I think it was.
2 and 5, maybe?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it still doesn't add up at all. But.
Smitty says, don't worry about it. You're not going to be known for scolding the Giants. You're going to be known for your avid stance against old people.
My poor wife Emily nested the Deniz rant. I don't know if she knew that that's what she was doing, but that's what she lives with.
In effect, there you go. All right, time for a quick break, and then we'll come back with some more thoughts. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365, and we know that right now is a great time to be on Bet365. You got the tournament going on, all kinds of action you can have. Bet365 live streams over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. New customers now can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up Use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get that $150 in bonus bets. Again, win or lose. Tomorrow, not just tournament action going on, men and women, you've also got NBA action, which means Slam Dunk Saturday. It's another Bet365 Slam Dunk Saturday. Place qualifying parlay bets totaling $20 or more on the NBA games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. New customers now can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up. Use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
If we had 10,000 people watching this show today, think about this. 7,400 of you would have subscriptions that you've forgotten about. Think about that, because 74% of people have subscriptions that they forget about. With Rocket Money, you don't have to remember every subscription or worry about forgetting any, because you see them all laid out in front of you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. You see all your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For any you don't want anymore, Rocket Money helps you cancel them with a few taps. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you, sometimes by up to 20%. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with the customer service themselves. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
Professor, I believe seeding in the playoffs by record has been a cause of yours in the past.
Absolutely, and in fact, it's almost identical to what the Lions proposed that I had been proposing in the past. I think we even talked about it on the show this season when we were talking about how the Lions and the Vikings, one of them was going to drop to the 5. I definitely agree. First of all, I mean, for those who don't know, the proposal is that division winners should still make the playoffs, but not be awarded one of the top 4 seeds automatically. And their proposal even included that the first tiebreaker would be whether you won your division. So 2 teams that are tied, if one won the division and one didn't, even if the one that didn't beat the other one head to head, right? It would go to the division winner. So I like this, and I think it's exactly what I said I would do when you asked about this on the show back in November or whatever. There are a bunch of reasons for this. Some of them are kind of obvious. I'll talk about the maybe like some obvious, some not so obvious reasons why I like it. One is the side effect on other teams, right? Like you're trying to reward winning the division and making division significant. But look at this last season, right? The Eagles won the NFC East. The Commanders didn't, right? It was the same division, 2 teams. One team won the division, the other didn't. And look at the teams that those 2 teams played in the first round of the playoffs. Like the Eagles had to play the 12-5 Packers, who a lot of people thought was like the 3rd best team in the conference. The Commanders got to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were 10-7 and clearly worse. So the structure is supposed to reward division winners, and it rewarded Tampa Bay like a bad division winner with a home game and all that. But it hurt like an actual good division winner in the Eagles like had to play like a 7 seed that shouldn't have been a 7 seed, right? So that structure can hurt the division winners who actually were better. Like that distortion of the standings like distorts everything in a way that's not worth the intention of the rule, in my opinion. The other thing it does is it makes it possible that the best 2 teams in the conference could play each other in the second round, right? Like the way it is now. Whereas if you seeded by record, that couldn't happen. The other thing, and this is one that I've talked about before in the past, that's maybe not discussed enough, is that they've built a wall in the standings between the 4 seed and the 5 seed. Right, where the division winners are above the wall and the non-division winners are below it. That cuts out competition for the 4 seed. Now, I'm old enough to remember when there were only 3 divisions, and that wall was between the 3 seed and the 4 seed. And that didn't matter as much. Like the 4 seed is the last seed that gets a home game in the playoffs. And so by making a wall between the 4 and the 5 seed, you're actually like stopping a potential competition for a playoff home game by just automatically giving it to the team that's like the worst division winner. And we saw this season, like Sean McVay, right? He flat out said he doesn't care if he's the 3 seed or the 4 seed. He rested all of his players in week 18, fell to the 4 seed when he could have had the 3 seed. Coaches have shown before that they don't care if they're 3 or 4. Would Sean McVay be able to do that if it was a matter of dropping from the 4 to the 5? Or if it were like losing a home game? Like, would ownership be happy with that? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that you would have fewer teams resting starters and more meaningful games if it meant that you actually had to earn the 4 seed by being the 4th best team instead of just being the worst division winner. The Houston Texans last year, they knew they were going to be the 4 seed with like 3 weeks left in the season, basically, right? Like the division was locked up. They weren't close to being as good as the other division winners. And so they had nothing to play for the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? That distorts standings in other ways too, because now you're resting starters against teams that might actually be playing for something. So I think building a wall like at exactly a point in the standings where there would normally be an interesting competition makes the end of the regular season worse as well. So that's something that I would.
That's the right argument to make in the room to the owners.
For sure, because the owners don't want meaningless games at the end of the year, right? Like that's not good for the league. And obviously I have a lot of opinions about playoff scenarios and week 18 scheduling and all those things. And one of the biggest issues with that week is that so many teams are resting guys, right? So if you can limit that in any way, and this would help limit that, then that would be a good thing.
Okay, well said. Do you care at all about the proposal to allow teams to prepare the K-balls a day early?
I was going to ask you guys about this one because teams are allowed to prepare their regular offense-like balls before the game, famously Deflategate, right? And I've always found that to be bizarre. Like, is there any other sport where the teams show up with like their own balls to the competition? Like, it seems weird to me that they're allowed to do that. Like, it seems weird to me that Deflategate was even a possibility. Like that they don't just like the league doesn't just bring balls to the game.
It's because like a new. And I'll defer to Bo on this. He's got a better arm than I do.
You don't have to defer everything to me. You can speak.
No. A new football, from my understanding, is much harder to throw.
Slicker.
It's slicker. It's harder to grip, and so it's the same way. Like a pitcher, he's not trying to throw a spitball, but he's just trying to get like a grip on a ball.
Some tack on that bad boy.
Yeah. So a football fresh out of the bag, if you will, is hard for the quarterback to throw, is my understanding. And so it's to allow the quarterbacks to be able to throw the ball.
It's not that they treat the ball. It's weird that they let the team treat the ball. It'd be one thing if like the league had a system through which they like treated the ball before the game, so it wasn't like out of the box. Yeah. It's weird that like each team is allowed to do it the way that they want. And this proposal kind of leads to like the way I read it, it's like, oh, so they're trying to like make cheating on field goals legal. You know what I mean? Like it's like, isn't that what would happen? Like it's like if you let the teams bring their own kicking balls, suddenly there'd be all kinds of controversy about like, oh, suspicious how like, whatever team's kicker is suddenly kicking it like 4 yards further than he was last year, right? Like I feel like it'll turn into like did they juice the balls in baseball type of thing?
One thing it
doesn't seem like a good door to open.
I've heard that K balls make teams less apt to fake a field goal or a punt because they're much harder to throw and to handle.
Ooh, so you're saying they would have like K balls that weren't really K balls for fake field goals, maybe?
No, I'm saying like if you have the ability of capturing the ball, then they could be more apt to run a fake in those situations.
And they could have a different ball for the fake than they do for the kick, which makes me think like this shouldn't be allowed to happen. Like, it seems like the ball should just be the ball, but I don't know. Maybe it's not. This is not a big deal. I was more curious what you guys thought on this one than having a strong opinion myself.
Okay, let's get to the fake rules that have not been proposed by the league. Yes. What did you think of Zach's no inactives?
Yeah, I understand the intention of this one. This is one where my like game theory, like mechanism design brain, like immediately like kind of jumps in, and it's like I get that like things have changed and it seems like inactives are an archaic idea. But inactives are designed to prevent teams from having an advantage in the number of players active on game day, right? That's what was the initial intention.
Yes.
My concern is that if you get rid of inactives, it's going to make it so that every slightly injured player is going to be like put on IR, right? Or just flat out cut like by the team if they're a marginal player. And that would lead to, so that they can still have a full game day roster, right? So that would lead to more players hiding injuries, right? Making it a safety issue. You mentioned, Zach, a way to fix this would be to have unlimited practice squad elevations every time a player is injured, like just let a practice squad player replace them. Yes. That to me sounded equivalent to just expanding the roster, right? Like just making the roster bigger and you still have inactives then. You just don't call them inactives, you call them the practice squad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I didn't understand exactly what the difference was. I think at the end of the day, when you look at the big picture, if you want the number of active players on the two teams to be the same on game day, there's no way to do it without forcing healthy players to be inactive, right? You can't make the number of actual injuries be the same. So you have to force active, healthy players not to play. Whether you call them practice squad players or regular roster players, I think is like semantics. Like at the end of the day, you're still forcing healthy players not to play. Don't you think?
Well, I would like to expand the rosters, but I understand, like, I want everyone to get paid, but I understand intellectually that if the minimum salary relative to the practice squad salary, it's like 4x, right? So right. That now, if you're getting elevated, you get the active player minimum salary for that game, but the owners aren't going to sign off on just paying, 10 more players or 8 more players active player salaries. So the elevation is a way around that. But I hear your point.
Yeah, they've already found a way to expand the game day roster a decent amount. I mean, just 15 years ago or so, it was 45 players would dress on game day, and now it's already up to 49 if you include the third quarterback. So that's already a big increase.
The San Francisco 49ers would have made the Super Bowl in 2023 had that rule been in place.
It's funny. That's how I remember that it's 49. Like Jimmy Kempsky and I were going back and forth on this. Like he was like, it's 48. I was like, no, it's 49. And the way I remember is it's the 49ers rule. Like the 49ers made it so that you were allowed to have a 49th player. Yes. So, yeah.
There you go. Kickoff touchbacks. You have some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, so I'll be brief. The original language on kickoff touchbacks was that they were supposed to go to the 35 if they went on the fly into the end zone. For whatever reason, at the last second, the owners changed it to the 30. And what we saw was most teams just kick it into the end zone. And so at the beginning of the year, especially before it got cold and kickers stopped being able to do it, the narrative was like, this is boring. Like, what was the point of this? Just like do the original thing and put it to 35, like, or maybe even the 40, so that teams don't get touchbacks. And I think it would be somewhat exciting that we'd get more kickoff returns. So that didn't get proposed. I was surprised by that. Zach, is there some sort of timing where things can still get proposed at the owners' meetings that weren't already proposed in this first round? I feel like things have happened like that before.
Yeah, so there are, and I don't know the exact thing. There are certain rules that are up to the competition committee, and there are certain rules that are up to the owners. And I'm not sure what the distinction is for the two.
Okay.
There is, but to answer your question, there is another meeting in May with the competition committee where things are kind of pushed to that. But I don't know if there's like bylaws, there's resolutions, there's rules. So I need to look that up.
I was wondering if this was like an automatic. It was supposed to only be for 1 year when they did it last year, right? So I was wondering if it's like an automatic meeting where they decide whether to keep it or change it in some way this year. So I really hope they still do change it to the 35.
We're about to head to overtime on allphly.com to finish the rest of this episode. Check it out there. All right, your last thing, Professor, your cause celeb is why do you have to decline penalties in the first place?
It is so stupid. Like, I don't think that anyone ever thinks about this because everyone was born into this and they just think it's normal. It's kind of like free throws in basketball, possibly the least entertaining thing in the world, and yet people think it's just like a normal thing that the game just stops for like a minute for one guy to shoot 2 shots. Like, it is so dumb and should clearly not exist. The version of that in the NFL for me is penalties being declined. Like, why do you have to decline a penalty? If the offense held and you still got like a tackle for loss for 3 yards, despite the fact that they were holding you. Why do you have to choose between your good play and the penalty? I remember there was a play where I think it was a 15-yard penalty on the offense, and Fletcher Cox got a sack on the play, but it was a penalty like during the play, and the Eagles took the penalty, and so it actually like took a sack away from Fletcher Cox, and he was like very upset. He was very upset after the game. Like he was like, "Yeah, that stuff matters. Like I'm very mad about that." Like if you let and one happen. I mean, I know I just badmouthed basketball, but basketball does that part right. At least if you get fouled and you make a shot.
Okay, so there's one rule to keep.
The only one to keep. You get the shot and you also get reward. Maybe not with the free throw. Maybe you should just get the ball back or something. But you get to keep both the result of the play and the penalty on the other team. I can't think of a single penalty in football where that would not be a better rule than the current one. Like if they did something to you and you still made a good play, you should get the yardage and the play. Like if the guy held you and you still caught the ball, you should get 5 yards plus the catch. Like why not, right? And the team that was the victim of the penalty should get a choice of whether they want to keep the result of the play or not. But they shouldn't have to choose whether they want the penalty or not. The penalty should just be automatic. Like, yeah, you get the penalty. Do you now also want the play? That should be the choice. So
what about when a team commits 2 penalties on the same play?
Should you get both of them, you mean?
Right. Or do you just get the one that's more penal?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to think about that. You could get some crazy stuff where you're getting like 30 yards or something, right?
Yeah, so that doesn't seem worth it. Yeah.
That doesn't seem, yeah. But I don't think that like, because in the Fletcher Cox example, it's actually taking away like a statistic from a player who made a real play. And in general, like it's taking away positive plays made by the team. Like it makes the rest of the play not matter, right? Like, and I don't think that should ever be the case. So. I think that should be thought about more, and like maybe someone else could come up with examples where it wouldn't be a good idea. But there are definitely, at least most penalties, it would be better to let the penalty always stand and let the team just choose whether the play counts, not literally like choose between the two, offense and defense. Like I just don't see why you have to decline a penalty just because you like made a good play. Like it seems like weird to me. So.
Okay, Zach, do you want to tell us where you're headed off to next week?
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm heading out of town with my family, my entire extended family, my aunts, uncles, cousins. We're going my grandparents, in
That's
particular,
very exciting.
my grandparents. Yeah, and so going away, and it's gonna be. I'm unplugging a bit, but not totally. But no, I'm looking forward to.
Man, everybody in your life is going to be there. Think of all the work you could get done if you weren't. If everybody was there.
I'm just gonna.
Well, I'll say this.
I have to ask Zach. What?
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna ask, how many hours are you planning to work a day during this?
So I was at dinner with my brothers the other night, and they're like, "We get it. You have to work. You don't need to tell us, okay?" And so, actually, Emily was like,
Shout out to your brothers.
Yeah, Emily was like, you can work when you wake up in the morning. You can work before you go to bed, but like, no one wants to hear that you have work to do when you're away. So I won't be like blatant about it, but there are certain things I need to get done. I'm on a tight time frame for something, so trying to get it accomplished, and hopefully
don't forget about the Brandon Graham advice that you said you were going to follow.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be present. Trust me, because I promise you, I'm really good about like, Emily is the most amazing mom in the world. Okay, the most amazing. Well, I mean, Emily and Rachel are too, right? But from my,
how would you know?
I'm biased. Sorry, I'm biased. I'm biased. Emily, my wife, is an amazing mother. Okay, but when it comes to like experience type things, I probably take the lead with that stuff. You know, if you're going to like, we're going to the Kennedy Space Center one day, like I'm talking about you. Sorry. And
ears are burning.
Yeah, and
She heard the butt. She heard Emily is the most amazing mom, but
yeah. So no,
she
so or
came
like
flying in.
if we're going on like a water slide, like I'm the one who's climbing up the stairs to go on the water slides with the kids, right? Like that's more the stuff that I will do. If it comes to like making sure that like they're sufficiently packed and fed, and Emily takes the lead there. But when it comes to like any experience type thing, I'm more the one who steps into that spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that you glanced to the side for confirmation on that. That was okay.
She didn't hear me talking about her.
Speaking of that, I want to give you one last chance here before we leave, Deniz. Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham retires. I know you think very fondly of the longest tenured Eagle. What are your parting thoughts on his career?
Yeah, I've always loved Brandon Graham. Like even like before, he became like a hero or whatever. He was one of my favorite players, just the way he played. And like, I know you always talk about like how he stops the run plays from the backside and stuff, like just like how predictable and how awesome it is when he does that. I'm really happy for him. I think it's better that he retired on top, I think, than if he had kept playing. So I wasn't sad when I heard the announcement, but when I try to rank like my favorite players ever, it's hard, and it's really hard to avoid recency bias, I think. But I was like, like BG's got to be top 3 for me. Like, and I wasn't exactly sure who the other 2 were, honestly. So, and it's awesome that he got to play here the whole time, win 2 Super Bowls, and just crazy, right? Be such a big part of one of them, and be such a big part of this season too. I mean, we talked on the show a lot about how awesome he was. Like, it was just great to think about, like how like kind of fun watching his whole career was, like, and how kind of perfect he is as a kind of character in Eagles history, right? Like with how positive he is and all those things. And, it was just awesome. So it's rare. Like, it's easy for me now at the age I am to like look at players and be like, they're much younger than me. Like, they don't have much life experience. Like, there's not much I can learn from them, right? Like, but when BG says certain things, like, I'm always like, like that's a really good philosophy to take about that, right? Like, it's something that I could actually like use in my life. The thing that Zach was sharing about the like being present when you're doing something with your kids is one example of that. Just how positive he is, like how we joke about how he would like agree with anything you say and just like laugh, but like that's such a good starting point, right? To how to interact with people. Like, when you think about it, like, I think one of the things that I know I do in my life that I wish I didn't do as much is like my first instinct is to be like, no, you're wrong. Like, it's actually like this, right? When it would be such a better starting point to think like, like you, like that has some validity. Let me focus on the positive thing of what you said. And then, and I don't mean to like give BG credit for something he didn't say. He never said that, right? But like the way he acts is such a embodiment of that way of doing things. Like, you could tell him the most ridiculous thing.
He's yes-anding. That's what he's doing.
Be like, ha ha ha, yeah, like, it. And then if he disagrees, like he'll eventually make it clear that he doesn't fully agree, right? He'll say the thing he's actually thinking eventually. So I think that would be, I think a lot of interactions in life would be like more pleasant if people had that approach. So.
I might see him tonight. I'll let him know you said that.
Please do. Yeah, I've biked by BG because he had something at like the casino near the stadium the year he was on IR the whole year. So I would bike by him just as he was walking in there, but I've never actually talked to him. So I'd love to meet him sometime, but I would, say hi for me.
Zach just dropping that he's going to be hanging out with BG later.
No.
I mean, we already know, like, Zach's kid and BG's kid are in the same flag football league.
It's Friday night flag football. Friday night flag football. So,
did run into Connor Barwin the other day, which was fun. I think his son has baseball practice at the same time as I run on Mondays. Nice. So that was kind of
now, Professor, is it going to be difficult for you to commute to your job and this show moving forward, since obviously you have to move to Jacksonville?
We were talking about this. I told that friend, I was like, Fred Johnson left, and he was like,
He
"No,
meant
that's
he's
not
like,
that."
you
He was
mean
like,
dad?
and he was like, "That's not that big a deal." And I was like, "What? Like, what kind of what kind of parenting have I been doing that everyone thinks it's just fine?"
The
that
second
Fred
most
Johnson
important male
leaves?
figure in his life.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. I mean, who am I going to run into now? Like, who's going to be the new Fred Johnson, where I just see him all the time? Yeah, no, it's definitely sad. I loved what a big part of like the social media stuff he was, like how funny he was on those. Yeah, gonna miss him for sure. So,
All right, Zach, last thing for you, since you're on the politics heater, super chat from Chase Daniel Plainview, who says, is it odd that JJ Arcega-Whiteside's former boss has not faced serious consequences after her years of torture advocacy during the Iraq War?
Yeah, I'm staying away from that one. I mean, I'm not informed enough to know.
She's not old enough for you to bag on her yet.
No, I'm familiar. I'm not ignorant. I'm familiar with what's being asked here, but not to the degree that I'm prepared to give the type of answer that this question justifies. So,
okay, fair enough. All right, good stuff, everybody. That'll do it for this episode and this week of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We're back next week. Zach may be gone, but we got to roll on nevertheless.
I'll be listening. I'll be listening.
Planned.
I can't wait.
You know he's gonna be.
Yeah, we're
he's
aware.
gonna be listening.
Please don't listen live. Like
I won't. I won't be listening live, but I will be listening.
Don't you have other things to do?
Yes, I have a lot of other things to do, but I take a walk every day and I listen. So
yeah. Over under on number of times Zach is in the chat next week.
I won't be in the chat because I'm tied up during the days, so 2 o'clock won't work. But yeah.
Okay. Well, we have some exciting shows planned, including, I believe, the great EJ Smith coming on the show on Monday. So we'll start things off that way.
Wow.
So we're looking forward to that. For all of us here at PHLY, we thank you for listening and watching this week. We will talk to you on Monday. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.